Yeah.
I'd leave it on until it cools down a bit. Well, it wasn't quite that straightforward, was it?
No, it wasn't. And actually, most of those clips are from when we were still figuring out how to use the machine, and it wasn't actually doing what it was supposed to be doing yet.
Yeah, that first 30 seconds was probably like 30 minutes of work.
And 30 minutes of us sitting there and listening to that beep, beep, beep. Using the hairdressing scissors. My mom's gonna be like, no!
Why do they make it beep like that?
I don't know.
It's a stress. It's a stressor.
So I guess our top tip for today's vlog would be, if you're gonna borrow any kind of equipment to do something, make sure you also either borrow the user manual for that equipment, you know the name and the model of the equipment you're using, or you just ask how to use it before you take it from the person who's generously lent it to you.
Yeah.
We got it working in the end though.
So this vlog is all about my art show and the things leading up to it and the things during it, and even me hurting my finger apparently.
You did hurt your finger.
Jerry's even made a note to mention that I hurt my finger.
He really hurt his finger. It's quite funny.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later. We actually ran into a few hurdles leading up to the art show, didn't we? You were so prepared with all of your stuff, weren't you?
Yeah, I've learned from previous mistakes to have everything prepped as soon as you can prep it. Like, if you have time before the show, or show that anything that you're putting on, don't take it for granted. Get everything done and then have the time on the end, rather than be like, I'll do this 10 minutes before because it'll be fine, right? No. It won't. It never is.
So today didn't go as planned. Having serious printer problems. Basically, the sublimation printer is no longer recognizing the ink cartridges that we have inside, which is just the icing on the cake, because everything else was coming together so nicely. Well, I wouldn't have taken that advice very well if you gave that advice to me at the beginning of the week anyways. I would have been really offended, and I would have probably been like, I know what I'm doing, it'll be fine. But I saved printing the mugs until the Friday. But the problem was that we made it to Friday, everything ran so smoothly, and then we had printer problems on Friday, and we couldn't figure out how to use the mug press. And then we got the mug press working, and we didn't even sell a mug at the art fair, so all of that stress for nothing, eh? Okay, it's the morning of Peter's big art show. We've just got the car packed up. Peter's already done a few trips out to the space, so all of his art stuff is there, and I thought my stuff wouldn't take up that much space, and yeah, it's taking up the whole car, so I'm gonna show you that right now. All right, here we go. Coffee machine, obviously. Cake stands in here. Coffee cups. Heat press, printer. I got some dog food because we're dropping Whiskey and Jojo off at Jen and Steve's, and they're gonna be watching them for the morning while we get set up. I should have a bag for all of this, but I don't. Just gonna find a place for it. And some oatmeal left over from yesterday because neither of us have eaten breakfast and we need to. How you feeling, Pete?
Yeah, good. Good, thanks.
Good. Boys, are we going for a car ride? You go for a little car ride, little dogs. Okay, go car ride. Whiskey, get in the car. Come on. Up, up. Good boy. And Jojo, come here. Good boys. Scout's back. So we're on our way to drop off the boys, aren't we?
Yeah.
And then we're gonna go to the hall, finish getting set up, and have an art show for Peter. We had the hall from 8 a.m. onwards, and I think it was actually more than enough time to set up. We've kind of decided that if we did this again, which we are going to do this again, we'll only rent it from 9 a.m. onwards because an hour would be more than enough.
Well, that was because they were kind enough to let us load in the night before. I cheekily asked if we could load stuff in because I thought if I had stuff in, set up kind of the night before, then if anyone else needed a hand loading in, then I could do that without having to rush around and do my stuff because the parking was limited / non-existent.
And the setup went really well. It went very smoothly. We had everything ready to rock and roll before the doors were supposed to open, which was great. So by the time 10 o'clock rolled around and it was time to move the sign out to the road, we were ready to go. How's it feel, Pete?
Great. Don't even know if you're allowed to actually put a sign out, but like you say, it's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for
Maybe I'll hop in this. This art show was put together to feature Peter's 28-day challenge collection that he painted over the course of the month of February. And when we decided to host an art show to exhibit that collection, Pete had a great idea and cut me off. Take over. I'm talking too much.
So I decided to ask a number of other local artists to come down and exhibit their work and sell their stuff. I thought it'd be a good opportunity to network and for people to sell stuff because it was Saturday before Easter and there's loads of tourists around.
So the first person we asked to be a part of the art market was Geneva, our next door neighbor. Geneva makes incredible biscuits that she decorates and they look more like pieces of art than they do biscuits. In fact, I think the majority of the people who passed them said, "And these are edible? These aren't just art?" Because they're so pretty. So we asked Geneva right away and we were very surprised that she said yes right away, weren't we?
Yes, because in her words, she hates
She
doing
hates.
shows.
Next up, we asked
Stephen Yates and Holly Yates, who are both incredible artists in the Dorset community. Stephen does watercolours, amazing watercolours, and ceramics, which are really cool and really interesting, I think.
Yeah, he also runs classes as well in the Dorset community. So
Yeah.
if you're interested in any ceramics classes or art classes, definitely check out his stuff. And Holly's stuff is really interesting because she does more like textile art. She has pieces that feature different materials. And one of my favorite things that she does is this collection of embroidered art where she has different layers of embroidery so that when they're all stacked above each other and you walk by it, they kind of change how they are layered up next to each other.
Yeah, they're really interesting. Next up we had Josie Holiday. So I met her at the Christmas market in Abbotsbury. Abbotsbury?
It was Abbotsbury.
She was really nice, really friendly, and I went to go and check out her art stall, and it's a really interesting style.
Yeah.
Really bright and vibrant, and yeah, really cool to look at.
Yeah, and you know what? She actually kind of reminds me of Naomi T. Winkle. Their art doesn't look like each other's art, but I feel like they would get along really well, so maybe we
I
should
think it's the
connect them.
vibe, the fun, bright, vibrant vibe.
Next up, we had some pieces from Angie Porter that were featured, and Angie is an incredible part of the Bridport community. She's active in so many different areas, not just in the art world, but also in the dance world and the theater world. That was really nice to have some of her pieces involved as well.
We had a surprise visit from, I can't even remember her name. She popped along to the gallery Art Unlimited in Bridport with a few pieces that morning, and Howard liked the art that she presented, but just didn't have, he's got so much art at the moment, he didn't have space to accept any of them. So we sent them our way. So just like, yeah, just grab a table and set yourself up. We had Valerie Goodwin as well, who was my drama teacher at school. She's quite a big member of the Bridport community, and her art's really interesting too. She's got a lot of art hanging up in our favourite restaurant in Bridport, the Mexican Tortilla Cantina. She doesn't consider herself as an artist, even though she does these cool paintings.
But
And I
she
just
is.
said, yeah, she is. If you create something, you're an artist, whether you like it or not. It was a good platform for her to show her art, build her confidence, and hopefully it did.
I think it did. And the really cool thing about the art fair was it was just a chance for a whole bunch of artists to get together and hang out for an afternoon and help support each other. And the way it worked with footfall through the room, it was actually quite busy throughout most of the day. It was great. There were always people in checking out the artwork. I ran a tiny little coffee stand. I didn't sell a whole bunch of coffee because a lot of people walking in already had coffees, but I think we actually made a bit of money off of the coffee machine. But most importantly, we saved money, because if we didn't have that coffee machine there, guaranteed we would have bought at least 2 coffees each at the coffee shops. And Peter sold a painting, which was huge.
Not from the 28-day challenge.
And I didn't get it on camera because I was too busy showing off my dirty something mug that I was drinking from, and Peter didn't tell me he was selling it. But what did you sell?
Sold it.
You sold it just now! I know, you were in the bag! You didn't get it on camera!
Just sold a painting.
Which one?
The one not from my 20.
This one! Yay! You sold a painting!
I was just too excited. I was just like, take it out the door. Completely forgot about the whole filming everything.
Our goal was to break even for the day, which we did with the hall rental. We didn't charge any of the artists for their table spaces. Peter sold his painting. He also sold actual prints, which is amazing. And you sold some coffee coasters, and you did sell postcards as well.
It was also just a good way of introducing myself to the general public. Oh, another good thing was Stephen Yates was asked by the Discovery Centre, which is a place down in West Bay, for a possible residency at theirs, and they popped along and he got it, which was like
amazing.
It was brilliant because he'd never exhibited in Bridport before, and it was just a perfect alignment of the stars for them to come and see his work and for him to get the gig.
We want to keep hosting these throughout the summer, do them once a month, and give other artists an opportunity to showcase their work in a supportive environment and in a way that doesn't cost them an arm and a leg to be a part of it. This was the goal. It was to create opportunities for other artists, and I think the biggest fear that we had about hosting this and inviting other people to be a part of it was that it wouldn't be beneficial for them and they would walk away feeling like they had spent an entire afternoon giving up their time but might not have received anything for it. And granted, I don't think everybody walked away with sales, but with opportunities like that happening for artists like Stephen Yates, and with Geneva selling biscuits, and her daughter Isla, who had her first fair, that was her first time selling. We forgot to mention Isla. She spent all day the day before decorating like 11 biscuits or 10 biscuits, and she sold out. She was such a little go-getter. So it's like creating opportunities like that for up-and-coming artists and for established artists. That was the point of making it a community event, and you succeeded in that. I think that's something worth celebrating for sure.
Yeah, I just want it to be a platform for up-and-coming artists to exhibit their stuff maybe for the first time, gain confidence, for established artists to gain more recognition in the community.
All in all, it was an excellent day. We had a great time. We cleaned the hall in record time. And then we went home to prepare because my Auntie Dean was flying in the same day and she was arriving that night, and we hadn't cleaned the house one bit. But first, we stopped at Dorset Nectar.
Our happy place.
Our happy place, and we got some ciders to celebrate.
Yeah. It was a good way to finish the day. So if you're interested in seeing the antics of Bridport Art Market, give it a follow on social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook as Bridport Art Market. If you're interested in exhibiting in the future, just give us a follow, and then I'll probably put a call to action closer to the time when we've actually figured out when we're going to do it again.
And if you liked what you're watching, make sure you hit that subscribe button and follow us for more Dorset living adventures and travel adventures. We're heading to Canada next week and we're going to be vlogging that, so that's pretty exciting. And if you want to keep binge watching our content, here's something that we think you would enjoy watching, and here's something that YouTube thinks you would enjoy watching.
Okay, bye!
We just stopped at Dorset Nectar after a very successful first art show. Got ourselves some honey bubbles, and we're gonna go celebrate at home after we clean up.